Welcome to another knitting video in which I'll be sharing some crafting goals, a hat and some other knitting stuff. My name is Freydis and this video is brought to you by a rapidly melting winter forest somewhere in Norway. I have one finished object to share and it is the Gro Hat by Fibertales, which I knit in Pickles Mjuk Merino in the color Estragon. I'm very happy with how this turned out. I really love the color and I think that the texture looks really nice. I think you can tell that these are supposed to be leaves. This is my first time doing this kind of a texture, like a bumpy texture, a 3D type of texture, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. Even though I made a couple of mistakes here and there, I feel like it looks quite nice. The hat itself is kind of on the small side, and the pattern talks about not worrying if the hat is a bit small because it will probably stretch, and I have reason to believe that this will stretch, but even if it stretches, it will... Okay, so how do I explain this? This hat is very skin tight. It sits very tightly on my head, and it's not just because it's a bit small. It's probably because the yarn is a bit lighter than what the pattern recommends. I think that if I had used a heavier yarn or just a fluffier yarn, something that has a halo, it would probably look a bit more... It would have a bit more volume and perhaps not sit so, you know, I don't know how to explain this. It wouldn't look so skin tight on my head, perhaps. So, so that makes me feel a bit weird about wearing it, and also because the brim, because the fabric is a bit thin, or at least that's my suspicion, because the fabric is a bit thin, and because the brim is just a double brim, and also because the brim is a bit too narrow. It only barely covers my ears. I really have to pull it down over my ears and it only barely covers them. And you can also really see the contours of my ears through the brim. Granted, my ears are kind of large and do stick out a bit, but I'm not really used to seeing my ears like that when I wear a hat, and I feel like it looks kind of strange. And I also don't like how I have to keep pulling the hat down, because I feel like it tends to ride up on my head and it feels like it could just bounce off my head at any moment. It hasn't happened yet, and I think it will stretch out, but I just don't... It feels a bit weird to wear it, and I think it looks a little bit strange. The whole ear situation looks a bit strange. So I think what I would do if I knit this again, which I probably will, I think I will use a slightly heavier or fluffier or both yarns or yarn, and I would probably knit the brim wider, maybe 2 or 3 centimeters wider, just to make it cover my ears a bit better. Or I might do a hybrid of this and the Oslo hat from Petite Knit, because the Oslo hat has a triple brim, which... so this is another gripe I have with this hat. It doesn't give the best winter protection. It's fine for more transitional seasons, or if the temperature hovers around 0 degrees Celsius, it's fine, but when it gets really cold, it doesn't really hold up, in my opinion. So by doing a triple layer brim, it might be more appropriate for deep winter. But considering the color, considering the leafy pattern and the name, which Gro, which means to grow, I feel like this would be a very good hat for spring. And I could probably also make a hat for autumn in a more autumnal color. But I really love this color, and you don't need a specific color for every occasion. I have made a few mistakes in the texture, especially on this part. Let's see if I can show you what I mean. This is a correct leaf, and this one is flawed. So you can see here, right there, I messed up left leaning and right leaning of some kind. But it's not exactly super noticeable, so I didn't bother fixing it. Now as for this hat specifically, I could also undo the crown and knit a few more centimeters before doing the decreases for the crown. And it wouldn't make the brim any wider, but at least it would make the hat a bit deeper, and it probably wouldn't feel like it would slide off my head at any moment. So that's a possible fix. But in any case, I'm very happy with the texture. I think it looks really nice. I was a bit worried that maybe it wouldn't be visible enough, but this is definitely visible enough. Although it might sound like I'm very unhappy with it, I am overall a lot more happy than I am unhappy. I realized that the second half of February is very late to be talking about knitting goals and plans for 2024, but I'm going to do it anyway because I've had a very slow and delayed start to my knitting year, or my crafting year really. It's because of some old pain issues that have flared up. They're not caused by knitting, but knitting makes it much worse. I am receiving treatment and I'm doing much better, but this means I've only recently started knitting again, and I've had a lot of time to think about what I want to accomplish this year and my whole approach to what I'm doing here. When I made my knitting recap of 2023, I realized yet again, because I kind of realized the same thing the year before, that I tend to make garments that I just like without having a real plan for how to wear them and what to wear them with. And this can be in terms of what colors go together, or what kind of shapes and fits go together, and just how everything interacts in a wardrobe. There are some pretty major things lacking from my wardrobe, and if I just had those items, they would tie all of these loose pieces more together. And the only way realistically to get these pieces I'm missing is to make them myself. And I've been meaning to get back into sewing for a very long time, but for various reasons it hasn't really worked out. But now I'm very determined to actually do it, because it's no longer just a matter of wanting to, it's a matter of really needing to. So getting back into sewing is a major goal for this year. Another big goal is to knit from stash. I've only been knitting for about 2.5 years, and I feel like my stash has gotten completely out of control. I've bought way too much yarn, and I guess it's kind of what happens when you're a beginner and you get kind of very fascinated with yarn and you just want to explore all of the different yarns, and it just becomes kind of an obsession. But it kind of gets out of hand, and I never wanted to be a yarn collector. I never wanted to have a very large yarn stash, and I suppose my yarn stash isn't that big compared to other people, but it's a lot bigger than what I would like it to be. So I want to do a low buy yarn year, not a no buy, because I feel like that would be too strict, and probably I would probably give up earlier than if I do a low buy and allow myself certain yarn exceptions. And the rules are, I'm allowed to buy secondhand, but only if it's significantly cheaper than buying it new, or something that's been discontinued. I'm allowed to buy yarn if I go to a knitting event or if I travel somewhere. I'm allowed to buy yarn for gift knitting. I'm allowed to buy limited edition yarn like Nutiden if something should appeal to me there. There's also a limited edition collection from Oslo Microspinneri, which I'm very interested in. I'm allowed to buy yarn in order to complete a project, but if I have one skein of nice yarn and I want to make a full sweater of it, I'm not allowed to buy 12 more to complete the sweater. That's pushing it way too far. I also have a very short, limited list of yarns I would like to get my hands on. I realize it kind of sounds like I'm just opening door after door to allow myself to buy more yarn and still call it a low buy. But, and maybe that's what's happening, but it makes sense to me to do it this way. If I make it too strict, I will give up way too soon. And the most important thing for me is that I have less yarn at the end of the year than at the beginning of the year. And I really don't need more yarn. I have more than enough yarn to keep me entertained for a couple of years at least. I have 2 works in progress, or rather I have one actual work in progress that I'm actually working on, and I have a failed work in progress. And I'm going to show you the failed one first. Here it is. This is supposed to be, or was supposed to become, a forest berry jacket by Fabel Knitwear. I finished one berry bouquet. Let's see if I can show you what it looks like. There it is. That's a bouquet of berries. Can you see it? Can you tell that this is a bouquet of berries? Because I can't. This is full of cat hair. My berry pattern, I'm not happy with my work here. My berry pattern is very sloppy. It should have been a lot tighter in many places, so you kind of lose the 3D effect. But I also think that this color isn't a good choice for this pattern. I feel like the color kind of devours the pattern and hides it. Like you can't really see the pattern in this color. And this yarn is Pickle's Pure Wool, which is a very nice yarn to knit with. I absolutely recommend it. I have no issues with the yarn itself. It's just that it's not the right color for this project, I think. And I'm also very unsure of how I feel about the colors, or the color on myself, how I feel about wearing this color. It doesn't actually look so bad on camera, but in real life this color is... I prefer most of my colors to be more on the muted side, and I wish this was just a tad bit more muted. This is a bit too clear for me, if that's the right terminology. And I'm not crazy about wearing this. When I envision myself wearing this, I don't really feel very confident. I feel kind of the opposite, and that's not really the feeling you're going for when you make clothes for yourself. Like the whole point is to make clothes you're really comfortable in and that actually speak to you. And as much as I like the color on its own, I don't really think I like it on me, or at least not in this garment. Maybe there's another type of garment I would be more comfortable wearing it in. I might also hold this yarn with mohair and let the mohair maybe mute the color a bit more. But in any case, I'm not going to use it for the forest berry jacket. And I'm kind of bummed about giving up on this project, because the forest berry jacket is very special to me. It was the pattern that originally pushed me into wanting to learn how to knit. I saw a picture of it on social media. I wasn't following any knitting accounts at the time, because I wasn't a knitter yet, but just someone I know had made one for herself, and it was just so beautiful. And I was so fascinated. I didn't know that knitwear could look like that. I didn't know you could knit something like this, and I just became so fascinated. And it really motivated me to want to learn how to knit for myself. So I feel like I owe the Forest Berry jacket, or rather the designer, Fabel Knitwear, a lot. And so I feel kind of bummed about giving up on it, but there's also another reason why I'm giving up on it. Knitting this texture just really aggravated my shoulder pain. Actually, knitting the Gro Hat also really triggered my shoulder pain. There's just something about knitting texture that's very different from knitting stockinette, apparently. So I think maybe I'll just have to stick with stockinette until my shoulder gets better. And the Forest Berry jacket will just have to wait. Some of you may have noticed that I'm wearing a Forest Berry jacket. This is, I bought this second hand maybe a year and a half before I started knitting, so yes, it still took me a long time to actually make the plunge after falling in love with this design. I was very lucky to find one second hand. I think it's knit in Pickle's merino tweed. I'm very grateful to have this because it makes me feel a lot less in a hurry to make one myself. And now for the work in progress I'm actually working on. Nej. Let's do that again. The work in progress I'm actually working on is the Into the Wild sweater by Tania Barley, which I'm knitting in let loopy. It's the first time I've made something in let loopy and I'm in love with it. I totally get the hype and I will absolutely keep knitting in let loopy. This is also a very special pattern to me because I'm pretty sure this was the first pattern I ever bought from Ravelry. At least it was the first color work. And I remember seeing this and also falling completely in love with it, like I did the Forest Berry jacket. And the reason why it's taken me so long to get started on it is because you have to maneuver 3 different colors at once, which is a bit more complicated than maneuvering 2. So it's taken me a while to get comfortable enough doing color work to want to tackle this. But I'm gonna talk more about this when I've hopefully completed it, or at least worked on it a lot more. But in the meantime, please enjoy some cute foxes in the making. If you've made it all the way to the end, I hope you will consider liking and subscribing should you be so inclined. And thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you again in a video very soon. And I keep saying very soon, but we all know it's never soon.